All right, let's put the plan together on how we're going to make this happen. Here's a simplified view of what we're trying to do. We got CO1001 and SSBC USA that we're going to merge together with Azure AD Connect into a single Office 365 domain. There are 3 models that Microsoft supports to do this. First off is a separate forest with no overlap. This is great for organizations that acquire each other. So let's just say Dairy Queen has acquired Cold Stone Creamery and wants to make their delicious, rich ice cream all template and gross like the Dairy Queen ice cream. Well, in that case, you have different user accounts in each one of those domains, and you'd be merging them together into a single Office 365 environment. It's not what we're doing here. The second supported environment is where you have separate forests, and you use something called GalSync to merge both of them together into one global address list. This just sounds like a mess, where you've got Exchange running right here and Exchange running right here. Some user accounts are active here, some user accounts are active there. And what Azure AD Connect does to figure out which one to use and synchronize is it looks at which one has the mail attributes enabled. That is not something I'm interested in doing at all. This is the model that we're going to use, separate forests with account resources. We've clearly said that CO1001 is going to be our account domain. That's going to be where our user accounts live. SSBC USA will live on for however long it needs to as our resource domain. It really just hangs out to host Exchange by the time it's said and done. That means we're going to disable the users in this domain and link their mailboxes to the users in this domain. Now, I want to make sure everybody catches that because that was a totally new concept for me when I first put this together. Let me go practical. In CO1001, there is an account that is jeremy@thevia.com. The problem is that account also exists in the old domain. The reason it still exists right here is because this is where I'm hosting my on-premise Exchange. And that's the only service I care about. That's why I'm calling it the resource domain. This domain is where every other service is going to be used. Shared folders, printer mappings, group policies, everything happens up here. This will be my final account domain. The problem is when I bring them together, Azure AD Connect has to go, okay, one of those will synchronize with the Office 365 cloud, and I raise my hand and go, ooh, this one right here. This is the real account. The only thing that I'm using this for is the mailbox. Thus, the supported model will be to disable this account right here, shink, and link the mailbox for my user, which still exists right here, to the new account right there. And that is what they call an Exchange linked mailbox. All right, so here's the process we're going to go through to do this. And I'm going to use my account, rightly so, as the first alpha test account to make sure this is all going to work. Number 1, convert the SSBC USA account to a linked mailbox, which will disable it and make this account, the one that's in CO1001, the only active one. This is now just a mailbox associated with that account. That can be done via PowerShell. As a matter of fact, the only way that you can do it is via PowerShell. Then we're going to modify the UPN suffix routing. This is one you won't find in the Microsoft documentation anywhere because what we're doing is a little unique. Right now, SSBC USA believes it has responsibility for thevia.com, and so does CO1001. So when I'm sitting out here using my laptop with Outlook and I come in and attempt to authenticate, I want to make sure SSBC USA knows, forward the authentication request up here. Don't believe that you have responsibility for it. So that's the process of modifying UPN suffix routing. I'll show it to you. And actually, I'm even going to wait to describe step number 3 until I do that because it won't make sense otherwise. So let's get to going. I'm remote desktop to my management server in the SSBC USA domain. I'm going to write it up here just so we have a marker of where we're at. I'm going to open Active Directory users and computers and just point out my user account is sitting right there, Jeremy Chara. User logon name, jeremy@thevia.com. Pre-Win 2000 name, SSBC USA /Jeremy C. Now let's head over to Exchange Management Shell and see the command. Microsoft actually lists this as a 3-step process, but thankfully some smart people out on the internet have figured out how to do it with one command. Well, I guess technically 2. First thing we want to do is assign some credentials to the $cred variable. Not credentials for SSBC USA, I already have those, that's how I'm here in the first place. I need credentials for the account domain to link that account to this mailbox. So I'll hit the enter key, it pops up and says, what is your credentials? I'll put in CO1001 /administrator and that guy's password. Good. Now here's the one command. It's a longer one, so let me describe it. First thing is it's saying set the user. account jeremy@thevia.com. Now that's my account in the SSBC USA domain, which is where I'm at right now. Then I'm saying the linked master account, which is an argument here that says I want to convert that account in SSBC USA to a linked account, and the user that I want to use is a user from the CO1001 domain. Now I'm going to emphasize again right here, this requires that trust to be in place. SSBC USA has to already have a trust relationship with CO1001 or this whole thing doesn't work. Then I'm saying the linked domain controller will be VIO-CO1001 as we wrap around, .co1001.ad.thevia.com, which is the DC for the CO1001 domain. And the credentials that I'm going to use to make this whole thing happen is a combination of the credentials I'm logged into right now with SSBC USA to even open this exchange management shell, and the credentials that I assigned from the new domain under the $cred variable right there. That one command does it all. I'll hit the enter key and bam, it's done. There's no success or report or anything like that. But I will be able to look back at Active Directory and users and computers. Let me refresh this and take a look at what just happened to my account. It's now disabled. The one command I typed in linked that account to the CO1001 Jeremy Chara and disabled the one in SSBC USA. Now, hopefully you've got the user account synchronized and the password synchronized between the two so the user doesn't notice anything. That's it. I've got one account converted, but the problem is it's not going to work. I've got laptops and smartphones and everything else sending authentication requests in right here because that's where Exchange exists, saying, give me the mail for jeremy@thevia.com. SSBC USA currently believes it has the authority for thevia.com. So I've got to tell it that it doesn't. Here's how I do that. I'm going to move on over to Active Directory Domains and Trusts. And first off, I'm going to show you, I'm going to right click on ssbcusa.local, go to Properties, and look at the trust relationships. There it is, ad.thevia.com. Great, the trust exists between the two domains. But when I click on Properties for this, then I click on the name suffix routing, which says here's the domains that are existing in ad.thevia.com. It comes up and says, hey, I'm seeing the via.com there, but you know what? I'm not routing any requests to it because it's conflicting. Conflicting with who? Me. SSBC USA believes it has the via.com. Now, question, how did this get here? Well, remember, over in the new domain, in Active Directory Domains and Trusts, we right-clicked up here and went to Properties and added that as a UPN suffix for this domain. When you register a trust relationship between two domains, it automatically says, hey, I've got these UPN suffixes over here. So now I'm going to tell you to do something really scary. And I'm not even assured 100% that it's going to work for you. I'm going to go back to SSBC USA and remove the via.com from a UPN suffix from this domain. Now you might be thinking, well, doesn't that mean all these user accounts that exist in this domain will suddenly stop working? And this is where I'll smile at you and say, I don't think so. I've tested it in my environment and they continue to work. Now, this was tested after hours with the Microsoft support representative on the phone who said, I think this will work. So none of us are confident that this is a great idea, but it worked for me. Watch this. I'm going to go into Active Directory Domains and Trusts, right click up here, go to Properties, and I see a list of all the UPN suffixes. Now I've blurred out all the ones down here because that's the customers that we're supporting. Right at the top of the list, you see the via.com. I'm going to click on Remove. Have a temporary moment of panic at this message that says, hey, deleting this will affect the user accounts that refer to it. Those users will not be able to log onto the network. Are you sure you want to delete this? And I'm going to call that message's bluff and click on Yes. Hit Apply and OK. And the via.com is now removed from SSBC USA, sort of. Let me go back to Active Directory Users and Computers and bring up my account. When I click the Account tab, it's still there. Well, that's weird. I thought it would suddenly remove that from all the user accounts. Well, so did the Microsoft rep on the phone with me. And we tried it and we go, well, look at that. It didn't. The great news for me is that means I can have accounts in here from the via.com and accounts in here from the via.com, allowing me to do a slow migration of these user accounts on over. Now, you may not want to do a slow migration. Matter of fact, I probably would recommend not doing a slow migration. Convert all of the accounts to linked mailboxes all in one evening. That's great. But I'll tell you, for my environment, it gives us a lot of breathing room and a little extra sleep. That's what I mean by modifying the UPN suffix routing, is I'm removing the via.com from SSBC USA and adding it up here. Now let's verify that worked. I'm going to go back over to Active Directory Domains and Trusts, right-click on the domain, go to Properties, open the properties for the trust. Looking at name suffix routings, now it says right now routing's disabled because it's conflicting, but I'll hit the refresh button. Look at that. Status has changed, no longer in conflict. Now I'm able to click Enable, and boom, the via.com requests are now routing over from SSBC USA into the new CO1001 domain. Click OK. OK, we're in action. Now, one more step left that I said I would describe to you once you understood that UPN suffix routing. We need to modify the UPN for the SSBC USA disabled account to something else. What I mean by that is I'm going back to Active Directory users and computers, and again, I'm in the SSBC USA domain, and I'm going to open my Jeremy Chara account. Somehow, it keeps it at the via.com even though I've removed that UPN suffix. And as I said, that's a great thing because it lets us slowly migrate our user accounts. However, since it keeps it that way, when the authentication request comes in, SSBC USA matches it up and goes, I've got that user. And a matter of fact, he's disabled. So I go in here, hit the dropdown, and change it over to ssbcusa.local. Now it's truly a dummy account. Dope! I've got another one in there probably for test purposes. So click OK and add just a 123 onto the end of this. Again, remember, this user account's not used for anything. It's totally disabled. It's just to keep the mailbox alive. Hit Apply and OK. Now, for every user account that I want to convert, I can do step 1 and step 3 and flip them over. We only have to modify the UPN suffix routing one time. Now, I mentioned at the beginning that you will understand how to convert a multi-domain environment to an account and resource domain. And now we've done it. SSBC USA truly just hosts mailboxes. But the account in that domain has been linked to the new account in CO1001. Man, we're getting really close. In the next nugget, let's make sure Azure AD Connect can federate this entire thing together. I hope this has been informative for you, and I'd like to thank you for viewing.